today's video, I'm going to be ranking the top 10 worst contracts in the NBA currently. Now, a lot of factors go into whether or not a contract is a good or a bad one. Whether you don't believe they can perform up to the value that they're being paid, or the player's getting older and the contract still has a few more years left on it, or maybe the player is just extremely injury prone and you don't know the next time you're going to see him play. There are many factors that make up a bad contract, so today we're going to be ranking the top 10 worst contracts in the NBA. But before we get into that, please hit the like button and subscribe. I'm a small channel just trying to grow. Yep. Let's start off the list with Michael Porter Jr. at number 10. Michael Porter Jr. in 77 games this year averaged 18 points per game, 7 rebounds a game, 2 assists a game on 50% from the field and 39% from 3. Now those numbers don't sound bad at all, and that's probably because they're not bad numbers. He's one of the more efficient shooters in the NBA, and he's also still fairly young at 27 years old. The issue with Michael Porter Jr. since he was drafted really was his injury concerns. Now Michael Porter Jr. has dealt with lingering injuries throughout his career so far, but those issues really came to a head in the 2025 playoffs. He would suffer a shoulder injury and looked like a shell of himself on the floor. He was often getting played off the floor in the playoffs, but he was almost forced to start because the Nuggets aren't exactly the deepest team in the league, to say the least. But Michael Porter Jr. has 2 years, $78 million left on his contract. Like I said, he is a solid player, but I don't think anyone would argue with the fact that he is overpaid, and he's most likely going to enter next season on a different team. I don't see him sticking around on the Nuggets for much longer. At number 9, I have Zach LaVine. He's almost a similar archetype to Michael Porter Jr. They're not negative value players whatsoever. They're both very efficient shooters. He's not much of a playmaker. He's not much of a defender at all. He's more of a quality starter on an NBA team, but the problem is Zach LaVine is 30 years old and he has 2 years, $95 million left remaining on his contract. I won't lie to you, I don't understand why Zach LaVine is on the Kings right now. I don't know why the Kings wanted Zach LaVine. I would expect Zach LaVine to be traded this offseason or next offseason. I don't foresee him retiring a Sacramento King or anything. But a quality starter, not a bad player, just simply overpaid. And he's also making more money than Michael Porter Jr. over the next 2 years, so that's why I have him at 9. At number 8, I have Jamal Murray, who finished the season averaging 21 points per game, 4 rebounds, 6 assists, and shot 47% from the field and 39% from 3. Now listen, I am aware, I like Jamal Murray, and he was the second best player on that Nuggets championship team. He deserved this extension. But what I will say is 4 years, $206 million for Jamal Murray is a little bit much. Now that is not me saying he is a bad player whatsoever. Again, I like Jamal Murray. But the thing with Jamal that bothers almost every NBA fan is his inconsistencies. In a playoff setting, Jamal Murray can literally drop 55 points. It's documented. But Jamal Murray can also drop 11 points in a playoff setting. Now I'm not going to say Jamal Murray flamed out in these playoffs by any means, but he definitely underperformed to my expectations. He most certainly did not have a great series against the Clippers and was also not very impressive against OKC. He's still an all-star level player, and I still believe he can be the point guard on a championship team, but we all know the NBA is a business, and it would not surprise me whatsoever if Jamal Murray was traded within the next 2 years. If Jamal can continue this level of play up until the end of this contract, then I don't necessarily think it's a major problem. That's something we're just going to have to wait and see play out, but at the end of the day, you're paying a non-top 20 player over $50 million per season for the next 4 years. That is still a risk. At number 7, I have Lauri Markkanen, who finished off this season averaging 19 points per game, 6 rebounds, 1 assist, 42% from the field, and 34% from 3. Lauri did miss a good portion of the season. He only played 47 games, and that's coming off the season prior where he only played 55 games. But the reason Lauri Markkanen makes this list is because last year was his worst season since 2022. Since Lauri Markkanen was traded to the Jazz, he broke out in 2023, averaging 25 points per game. He also shot 50% from the field and 39% from 3, numbers that have significantly dipped in 2025. Now, Lauri Markkanen is a player that everybody knew had insane potential. He's always been a dynamic combo forward, and he's also 7 foot tall. The Jazz had 2 years to cash in on Lauri Markkanen's insane trade value. He was previously only making $18 million per year, and every competitive team in the NBA was calling the Jazz. But the Jazz decided to keep Lauri Markkanen and ink him to a 4-year, $194 million contract. Now, do I think Lauri Markkanen has fallen off? Do I think he is going to be as bad as he was last season? Absolutely not. Last season was such an absolute tank job by the Jazz. I'm sure they were glad Lauri Markkanen was sitting out games. And I'm sure next year with Ace Bailey, Walker Kessler, and the improvements of Keontae George and Isaiah Collier, the Jazz will be a little bit more competitive. And I think that will spark a fire in Lauri Markkanen. I do expect him to live up to the value of this contract, but I had to put him in the video. It's 4 years, $200 million for a 28-year-old who averaged 19 points per game last year. It's still a concern. If Lauri Markkanen never gets back on track, this would be one of the worst worst contracts in the league, but I don't expect that to happen. At number 6, I have Joel Embiid. I'm gonna make this very, very quick. Joel Embiid is still one of the best players in the NBA. If Joel Embiid can play, if he can make it onto the court, then he will without a doubt be worth his contract. But I don't have to sit here and tell you that that is a question mark for Joel Embiid. We all know that. He's dealt with injuries throughout his entire career. And now with Joel Embiid being 31 years old and he has a 4-year, $241 million contract to his name, that is scary for Philadelphia and its fans. So I'm going to continue to support Embiid. I acknowledge that he's one of the best players in the league. However, this is still an insane contract for an aging, injury-prone player. At number 5, I have Jrue Holiday, who was recently traded from the Boston Celtics to the Portland Trail Blazers in one of the more weird trades to me. The Celtics traded Jrue Holiday for Anthony Simons in a second-round pick. I don't know why Anthony Simons had to get traded plus a pick for Jrue Holiday. Jrue Holiday is a 35-year-old guard with 3 years, $103 million left on his contract. Anthony Simons is younger, and he's also an expiring deal. I don't know why the Trailblazers did this. I'm sure that they're just going to push for a play-in or playoff spot next season in the West, and they thought Jrue Holiday was the best they could get. But this contract is still scary. Jrue Holiday is 35 years old with 3 years left on the deal. He didn't exactly wow anybody last year. I think the first signs of age showed for Jrue Holiday. He was very inconsistent shooting the ball, and his defense may have slipped a little. But Portland is still willing to take the chance on him. They think he's still a great player, so hey, hats off to him if it works. But if it doesn't work, that's not going to be a very easy contract to trade, to say the least. At number 4, I have Jeremy Grant, who finished off the season averaging 14 points per game, 3.5 rebounds, 2 assists. He shot 37% from the field and 36% from 3. Wow, I knew Jeremy Grant was bad this season, but I really did not know until the making of this video how bad he was. To his credit, he did only play 47 games this season. He dealt with some nagging injuries, but 14 points per game is the lowest points per game totals he's seen since 2020. In 2022, Portland traded a first-round pick for Jeremy Grant in hopes that he would help Damian Lillard conquer the Western Conference. That did not happen. Damian Lillard ended up getting traded to the Bucks, but the Portland Trail Blazers still extended Jeremy Grant for whatever reason. And let me tell you, at 31 years old, Jeremy Grant still has 3 years, $102 million left on his contract. Jeremy Grant, for the majority of his career, was viewed as like this good level starter, Swiss Army knife type forward for your team. He could play small forward or power forward. He was a very solid defender in his early OKC and Denver days, but took on a much larger offensive role with the Detroit Pistons and kind of never looked back. His defense has never really recovered, and his offense is also getting worse by the year. He's just not a great fit with this Portland Trailblazers team that has Toumani Camara, Denny Avdija, and now Cedric Coward, who all play his position. Jeremy Grant is a player I'm certain will be traded this offseason. I don't know what team is going to be dumb enough to take on his contract. Maybe it's a team with a bunch of expirings like the Lakers, or maybe the Heat's bite on him. But from the outside looking in, this 6'7" power forward who plays solid defense and can shoot the 3-ball efficiently, he looks like a great get. But if I was a GM, I would not go after Jeremy Grant. In 2025, he's simply not worth the money that he's making, and you will still be paying him until he's 34 years old if you trade for this contract. So yeah, I don't know what the Trailblazers do with Jeremy Grant. It's a terrible contract. I don't know why they gave it to him in the first place. He doesn't fit on the team. I don't know what happens with him. And at number 3, another or at least a former Trailblazer, Damian Lillard, recently suffered a nasty Achilles tear with the Milwaukee Bucks, effectively ending his season and all of next season. So Damian Lillard actually just got waived by the Milwaukee Bucks. I don't know how long they'll be paying off his contract, but Damian Lillard is no longer a Buck. And Miles Turner somehow is. I don't understand the NBA. Now at number 2, this is going to surprise you because judging by the thumbnail of this video and by everything I've seen over the last year or so, we all expect one man to be placed at the number 1 spot. But I have him ranked at number 2. I have Bradley Beal as the second worst contract in the NBA. Bradley Beal finished last season averaging 17 points per game, 3 rebounds, 3 assists, shot 50% from the field and 38% from 3. Those numbers don't sound too bad, right? Well, he's 32 years old with 2 years, $110 million left remaining on his contract with a no trade clause. The Phoenix Suns traded for Bradley Beal in hopes to form a big 3 around Kevin Durant, Devin Booker, and Brad Beal. That big 3 never worked. But the Phoenix Suns still knowingly traded for Bradley Beal, who had a massive contract with a no trade clause in it. But now you fast forward to 2025 and that big 3 they built completely failed. Kevin Durant was traded, but Bradley Beal is still on the team, despite him massively underperforming since being a Phoenix Sun. Now, I don't necessarily think Bradley Beal's failure of a tenure on the Suns is entirely his fault. The team is still poorly constructed, and they also have Devin Booker, who's literally a 2-guard as well, and I can't imagine that fit gets any better next season when they're bringing in Jalen Green, who's another 2-guard. So yeah, if you don't know what a no trade clause is, basically he can deny being traded. He will only go to a place that he would like to go to, like in LA or the Warriors or the Heat. You can't just dump Bradley Beal to Charlotte. He's not going to allow that. That's what the no trade clause is for. So yeah, pretty much the Phoenix Suns are stuck with Bradley Beal for the next 2 years. The Bradley Beal who you will be paying $57 million to in 2027 as a 34-year-old. Just a disastrous contract. Everyone in the league knows it. It's just an absolute mess in Phoenix right now. That's obviously no good, and that's why it's the second worst contract in the league. Now, for the number one absolute worst contract in the league, I have Paul George. As a Clippers fan, the prospect of paying Paul George a 4-year max extension in 2023 terrified me. I did not want that to happen. Thank God it did not. He ended up signing that 4-year, $200 million deal with the Philadelphia 76ers. Paul George, in his first season in Philadelphia, played 41 games, averaged 16 points per game, 5 rebounds, 4 assists, shot 43% from the field and 35% from 3, which was Paul George's worst year in the league since his sophomore season, which is no real secret as to why. We've all known about Paul George's injuries dilemma for the last 10 years. He's been constantly hurt, and he's also aging. He's currently 34 years old with 3 years, $161 million remaining on his contract. The 9-time All-Star will be paid $57 million in the 2027 through 2028 season, in which he'll be 38 years old. Do I need to say more? He's an old player, he's an injury-prone player, and he's getting paid max money for the next 3 years. I do not expect Paul George to retire a 76er. I think they'll give him and Embiid one more run next year, and if they again perform poorly, I would expect him to be traded. Now, the problem with trading Paul George is, again, he's the worst contract in the league, so you're gonna have to dump assets just to get off his money. I can't envision a team a year from now looking to compete that wants to trade for Paul George. That's just not gonna happen. If any team gives up a single asset for Paul George, that's a win for Philadelphia. But again, I don't see that happening. I don't know how the Paul George saga is going to go in Philadelphia, whether he gets traded at the deadline or whether he gets traded 2 years from now. At the end of the day, he's 35 years old on a team looking to compete in the Eastern Conference now on a max contract with major injury concerns. But anyways, if you guys did enjoy this video, make sure you hit the like button and subscribe. Thank you to all those who have, and I hope to catch you guys in another video real soon. Let me know what you guys think about this list down in the comment section below. But with that, I'm out. Deuces.